what we're working out is something special for this particular group where it's usually going to be $100 a month, but I think I switched it up even in my thought. I said, well, what if we could prove a point to people with just doing $33 a month for everybody, whoever comes through, just to get this particular video that is going on right now. You guys are the beta group to prove the point. So in light of that, want to reiterate that FRSTGEN is a subsidiary of FRSTGEN and Family Inc. We collab with creatives and entrepreneurs to raise financial and business literacy by implementing actionable plans, strategies, and learning vehicles that births mental clarity to become good stewards of money. And this is financial information, not financial advice. Please consult your own wise counsel if you think that's where the money at. Now, etymology. I like to get into the study of words, what money is. If one has looked at the Freedom Talk series, they'll see that the etymology of money as on screen is anything convertible into money. That's your idea. That's an idea. That's an idea. That's a gift. That's a talent that one has that can be converted into an opportunity to contract for Federal Reserve notes, credit, what have you. So the etymology of the word money and understanding that we can create something from nothing with a philosophy, just like a basketball coach, football coach that are champion ideal coaches that not just are champions in the sport of winning, but champions in the sport of creating character in their players, because the talent is not what's going to take you to the championship as much as the character to help you win the championship. And you do that with a philosophy. And as you can see there, a dream written with a date next to it is a goal broken down into steps is a plan, and a plan backed with consistent action is your manifested life. And that's what we're going to do here over the next 90 days with each other. So the good stewards, life insurance. Wealth begins with life insurance. Understanding good debt versus bad debt, leveraging credit, understanding MSI, multiple streams of income. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, DBAing, doing business as with your gifts and your talents, and understanding the concept, the methodology and philosophy behind you unincorporated business organizations and the family ecosystem is what I like to call it, the family ecosystem. So, of course, you're here seeing me as the FRSTGEN and Family Inc. doing business as FRSTGEN as one of the directors. But of course, I'm also chief trustee of Chris Vism, another Vision creative company, two-time award-winning filmmaker, member of the Grammy Association, Texas chapter, and board member of Texas nonprofit DBA JACO, 501c3 tax exempt organization. And I say that because all of this came to me at a time where I was figuring things out. Just won my first award as a professional through Houston World Fest, one of the oldest independent film festivals in the US. But my thing was, how did they create sustainable income to be around since the 60s as a nonprofit? And through the whole process going through that, I found what you're seeing right there is how they were able to sustain, because I won 2 of those awards and had to pay for both of them, my trophy as well. So it was like they extend opportunity to get recognized for your work on a professional platform, and they are able to sustain themselves by way of the people that paid to get into the film festival, to have their work judged, seen, and if they win, then you buy the award, trophy, et cetera, and then now you have the affiliation accreditation. Great. but I was still in a situation. Meaning, what you're looking at the stages of life, if you will. One of the best quotes that I've read at that time when I was going through what I was going through in the homelessness part as an award-winning filmmaker, the best way to help the poor is to not be one of them. And that's by Dr. Joseph Murphy in the book, The Power of the Subconscious Mind. So during that time, realizing that there's not that much difference from this year, the average American is making $31,000 a year and has less than 3 months expenses saved. But this is the level, the status of the stages of life in which we try to reach. Level 1, where we start at the bottom, out of the mud, if you will, and we're in that survival. And then we get to the level of status 2, where we are creating more income for ourselves, keeping up with the Joneses. And in that, then we get to a point of freedom because we get to experience all of those particular joys. And now we move forward to purpose, because when you make enough money, you can get purpose, right? You can now live out your purpose. But yet, the average American makes $31,000 a year. I don't see how realistic that is to be able to live out your purpose, making $31,000 a year. So it was a flip for me. Keeping in mind, the best way to help the poor is to not be one of them. I was in level 1, but my flip was because of what I was going through, learning about separating myself with the political and legislative freedom, the Mandrake mechanism, talked about in the Freedom Talk series. That is where I started from, the survival part. Being a starving artist, the quintessential starving artist, homeless, trying to find his way, right? But through all of that, I found my purpose, which is going to lead to the status. Because if I could show someone else how to do the same thing that I've been around with other people that have shown me, like millionaires, billionaires dropping game on me on different ideas, business owners dropping game on me on different ideas throughout the years, has led to this. FRSTGEN, how may we collaborate to positively affect our missions and support each other's bottom line? That book right there, I hope you write it down if you haven't already read it. Cash Flow Quadrant, which is the second book to the Rich Dad Poor Dad. Undue Influence, if you can even find this book out there. It's talking about, again, the epic battle of the Johnson & Johnson fortune, but it's chalked with trust talk, asset protection, wills, living trusts, stock exchanges, and shares of stock in corporation exchanges for your children about to be born. So you transfer shares of stock into your trust or your corporation. You don't want to be taxed on a certain amount, so you transfer shares of stock of the corporation into the trust in exchange for a marriage to your new spouse. Like, insane, but major drop in how you can move through trust. And of course, Life After Google. George Gilder. George Gilder is the author and the former spokesperson, if you will, for technology that told President Reagan, put the actual first microchip in his hand in the 80s and said that this is going to be the wave of the future. So he had a book called Life After Television that Mark Cuban, Steve Jobs, a couple of other successful names read. And that came out in the mid to late 90s, Life After Television. Well, 2 years ago, he came out with this book, Life After Google. And as you can see there, the fall of big data and the rise of the blockchain economy. And that's also dealing with crypto as well. So these 3 books, if you can find Undue Influence, definitely want to get you a copy of that. But these 3 books at that time, when I was going through my homeless phase and trying to put the pieces back together, I was an award-winning filmmaker with a company that was award-winning. Created a nonprofit 501c3 tax-exempt organization. Created based on Life After Google, a digital marketing company that basically specializes in system automation, making entrepreneurs' lives easier by helping them work on the business instead of working in the business. And the way that you create generational wealth, helping families get covered with life insurance policies, and also an agency that creates that Be Your Own Bank policy, which is the only reason why I connected with PHP, People Helping People. So in that, financial literacy. Life insurance is for life. Final expense, burial insurance is for death. We all need to have some type of life insurance policy over us. It's not expensive, but it's something that if you put a certain amount of aggression behind it, depending on your age, that you could use it literally for as a viable savings account, being able to tap into your cash value. It's not necessarily for a quick fix in a year or two. That's not the point of it. That's why it should be earlier when we get started, but hey, we'll get there. Becoming your own banker, that's going to be something that's going to be in the link that's going to be provided for you later. You're going to see as we move forward here how that's going to play out. So the goal for the next 90 days in our syllabus, right? Understanding the 4 precepts of life legacy, what I like to call a life legacy. And that's personal economic freedom, credit awareness, proper business structure, and asset protection. That's what we're going to be dealing with over the next 90 days. So, understanding financial literacy. Personal economic freedom and credit is what we're going to focus on. Some people are going to take different paths. So, based on the financial assessment that was filled out, some of you guys don't need that self-lender, but it could help. It gives you at least about 47 points boost to your score when you do self-lender. Upstart is you get a loan with them, credit building type loan, some pretty decent rates on that. But again, never look at the interest rate, because we have a plan and strategy to where that interest rate, it's neither here nor there. We're just using this to add trade lines to the credit to decrease your debt to income ratio and such, but we'll get there in that talk. As we create the businesses, we're getting those businesses set up with Dun & Bradstreet, get that DUNS number. So you can start effectively creating your PAYDEC score, building that up. And the PAYDEC score is just like the FICO score for personal credit for business. But we'll get there. This is just the overview orientation of our first meeting of things that we're going to be discussing here over the next 90 days. Again, Be Your Own Bank, life insurance from our partners, People Helping People, proper business structure with the 7 entities per the IRS, what those 7 entities are and how we can create and move within them. The asset protection, moving in anonymity compliant jurisdictions through legacy instruments, AKA trust indentures or contracts. But that is going to come in about 60 days into our whole process when we start really touching in on that information. So, plot to consider, right? What if I'd have known this 20 years ago about life insurance? Insurance is for the wise. You have health insurance, you have private income protection insurance, you have supplemental unemployment insurance, business income protection insurance. That during the pandemic, if your business lost income, then you could tap in on some income protection if you would have had that type of policy working through your business. We buy credit, because credit is money. And I have advanced right here because there's a way that you could use buying credit to position your credit. And I know that some of you are aware, some people watching this is aware that you could position your profile in such a way. It's not always about the credit score, it's about having an attractive credit profile and buying credit, because there's 2 things that are untaxable when it comes to income. loans, and credit. I wish I would have known about the family constitution and trust and the family office. That's advanced. That's going into that 60 days that we're going to talk about, that family constitution, getting that information on paper. This is a great way to start your trust paperwork based on what you want to get accomplished with your family constitution, kind of like the Constitution for the United States of America. And we know that the United States is a federal corporation, and it has a constitution, and it also has an office called the White House. So you get it. Moving on. I wish I would have known your job is your first private investor. I was chasing the dream of sports and football and stuff. And if I would have just had that advice coming out of my teenage years, to treat your job as your first private investor and to know what to do with those funds and have a strategy, things would be looking way different for myself and people around me right now. But again, everybody has their path, and hopefully you guys can take just a piece of this and take your lives to an entirely different level within these 90 days. Pay yourself first. Starting off with at least 10% to 18%, but 10% of your gross income. Pay yourself first. We'll get there and how that looks and what that really means. A third of your income is reflective of your mortgage and rent, meaning your third of your monthly and or your annually, however you factor it, should be your rent or your mortgage. So if you have a mortgage of say $1,200, $1,300, then that means that that is a third of your monthly income, and your monthly income at that point may be around maybe $4,000 to $5,000. So a third of $5,000, you're looking at about $1,300. So that's a third. So if I would have known that coming out, that also would have flipped my mind about what I was getting myself into, called life. A billionaire told me this, that he never paid his bills on time. And I was like, what? He's like, the bills that don't affect your credit, pay them as late as possible. Because sometimes you miss out on opportunities because you're cash poor and you don't have access to be able to get liquid fast enough for certain opportunities. So what he did was, if the bill didn't affect his credit, he paid it as late as possible, like disconnect notice. And then he put it on his credit card. Why? Because again, we don't worry about interest rates. We're using the system as it is. You got 20 days to pay whatever you put on that credit card off in full or in part, however you're going to do it, without getting the percentage added to it. So it's like using the money same as cash. As long as you stay within the means of living and not go outside of what your income is actually bringing in. So we'll get there, but pay your bills that don't affect your credit as late as possible. So there is no replacing hard work, but I have in my philosophy, unless you work hard at working smart. I want you guys to work smart. I want us to work smart together in this process by creating the system that we're going to work by. So I can make sure that everybody is still with me right now. Did anybody know about this, what I'm showing on the screen, the 6 basic routes to wealth in this country? Is anyone aware of that?
Yes, definitely heard of Pay Yourself First. The Marriott, I've definitely heard of that. The Inherited, yes. I know a lot of people do sue people for money, like that's their actual job. Yeah, I feel like I've seen all of these. Yes.
Excellent, excellent. So the one that got me, because I knew none of other than Win It, of course, that's your lottery scratch-off tickets and stuff. Marriott, Inherited. I didn't really think suing for it was a strategy, and we really didn't know about budgeting But the one that we definitely, where I'm from, didn't know about is pay yourself first. So let's get into that real quick. Now, the 5 keys to master on these moves is simple. To know yourself, how to reason, how to build your team, how to make power plays, and how to use strategy to scale. I talk about doing the most with Biz Leads 366. That's one of our mottos, because that's an acronym for mission, objectives, strategy, and tactics. When you know what your mission is and you can identify your objectives, you can create strategies that have executable tactics that's going to result as long as you consistently apply, get the numbers on your side. But what makes all of those things flow smoother is when you know what you're doing. So here you see a couple of pictures there that are exercises, some resources from a few partners that we dealt with, and some borrowed and sourced from other books that have been read, and how to effectively take what we desire to do and create actionable results from them, for them, and get it done in an exponential amount of time. Because now we're cutting away the fat away from what we think is important, getting away from busy work just to be busy, but we're going to be busy to be productive, trimming the fat to where we become transactional based and not just showing up just to have a meeting. Notice though, is there anyone that could pull out the detail of anything that looks out of place?
Okay. Can you repeat that, but also tell me which chart I'm looking at? Are you looking at all of them collectively?
Yeah, as a whole, for each 5 of the moves that we need to master, do you see anything missing?
Yeah, I'm looking at it from a phone, so I can't really see anything. I'm gonna have to yeah, so I can't really see anything. I could just, yeah, I can't see any details. I just try zooming in, but my phone is not clear.
Understood. So the detail that's missing is how to build your team doesn't have anything under it or by it.
Oh, I had to move you.
Because that's always, you can come, I can put up any graphic for that. It's like, that's gonna come, like right now we're building the team if that's the case. So I leave that open for us to clear in at the end of the 90 days. We're gonna know how we built our team specifically for our particular means, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Resources. This presentation is going to be in PDF format at the end, and we're going to have that link. As you can see, it's hyperlinked right there. You can just go up to it, tap it, and it's going to take you straight to the link where some of these resources are going to be. Little infographics like what some people may not be understanding, like what an earned income looks like, or what a dividend income looks like from a stock. You know, there's a play right now that I'll drop on everyone that I found out about that I'm excited to put to practice first quarter next year, taking $2,500 and going into a franchise like Popeyes, McDonald's, and such, Subway, what have you, and tell them that you want to put invest $2,500 into the business. What the word on the street is if you do that, in 8 months, you'll have around $8,000 to $10,000 by running that play right there to invest $2,500 into a chain like a Popeyes, McDonald's, and such. And they say that you could just walk in and ask for the manager, and the manager is going to take care of the situation from there. So, but dividend income is what that would be. So, as you can see in the top left corner, with the blue writing and stuff, a spreadsheet looking thing, that's some grants, women grants, business grants, whatever. That's going to be in the resource link as well. So you can do your diligence and start, getting into that. making a budget. We're gonna do the budget deal, financial assessment of where we are. And we're gonna do a personal branding there in the middle where you say, who do you serve? So we're gonna break this down. It doesn't matter where you are financially. It doesn't matter where you are with credit. It doesn't matter where you are with anything. As long as we can create the plan and stick to the plan and don't deviate, we'll be fine. So that means we got to make a decision to enhance our money skills and create positive banking relationships. Making money is a skill. Would anyone agree with that, that making money is a skill?
Yes, absolutely.
But we have to figure out how we're going to make that skill work for us and our best benefit. So who do we want to be? This comes from the source for the next your next 5 moves by Patrick Bet-David, who's the CEO of People Helping People. Who do you want to be? You want to be the entrepreneur. I talked about that during the Bummy Collective podcast, which is also geared towards creatives and entrepreneurs to gain more financial awareness and how they could scale their businesses and start to live that dream life, not as an employee of their own company, but as the boss of their own company. But the best way to find that out, that I did and worked for myself, that worked for me, is working for me, is this graph right here. So this graph you guys are going to have as well, but it's going to be blanked out and you're going to see later what that is. But to go deeper, the red letters there, you know, entrepreneur, your executive officers, your influencers, YouTube, podcast, Instagram, your social medias, the CEO, founder. You see, what I didn't know starting off is that the CEO wasn't necessarily the founder of the company. The CEO is nothing but an entrepreneur that sells themselves like an entrepreneur to work for other companies. There's some people on the call right now watching the video that's a part of the support team. Everybody needs a support team. Some of you got brilliant ideas to where you could invent something. Some of you just say, hey man, I could sell ice to an Eskimo. So it's like, it just depends on you identifying where your strengths are. And that's what we're going to do within the next 90 days for those that want to start a business or those that want to help those that got a business and support that. But we'll get there. Another set of questions that I pulled from my younger years that I was like, wow, when I was 25, I could not answer any of this. I didn't know how. What is your net worth? Even in telling you how to calculate it, I looked at this, man, I have nothing that will constitute towards net worth. What is your gross income? What are all of your fixed costs? Well, I knew that. How much money do you have, do you save per month? Didn't really do that. How much goes to your retirement account? Didn't really do that. How much goes to other savings? Didn't do that. Why? Because there's usually companies, corporations, the people that do that, that company does it for them. But when you work for yourself and you're an entrepreneur, you have to figure out how to do this for yourself. So then, how big is your emergency fund? Where do you keep your emergency savings? Where do you keep them? That was interesting. How much money do you invest outside of your retirement accounts? Via the stock market, real estate, cryptocurrency, etc. Do you have any debt? And of course, most of us have that. I had that before I knew my net worth, I had debt. You feel me? I think a few people can identify with that shit. But here's the expectation. By March 15th, 2022, everybody on here is gonna have at least 50 to 100 points increased on their FICO and 2 new trade lines reporting. Now that's conservative because self-lender can give you 47 points right off the bat. If you're creating a business, you're gonna have 5 new trade line vendor accounts by